On a boreen outside Doolin, a postman steps out of his van at 7:20, lifts a letter over a stone wall. And drops it into a milk churn that has served as the household's postbox since the 1970s. At a quay in Kinsale on the south coast, a fisherman coils a wet rope onto the deck of a half-decker boat. The harbour lights still holding the morning. In a farmhouse kitchen in Adair in County Limerick, a kettle comes off a range that has not been coaled since 1987. This is Ireland. Not the postcard country of green fields and fiddle tunes, the working one. Whose townlands still remember what was taken from them. Ireland lost more than half of its people. Between 1841 and 1901, the population fell from 8.5 million to 4.5 million. 1 million died. 1 million more left. The hunger was called An Gorta Mór, the Great Hunger, and the country that came after has been counting its people in names ever since. What follows is daily life in a country that was emptied and has begun to fill again.
The boreen is not yet the colour it will be at noon.
It is still the colour of wet limestone under low grey cloud. The postman's van is a small white Renault Kangoo with a harp decal on the door, the emblem of Unpost, the state postal service. His route covers 41 households. A boreen. The word comes from the Irish boreen, meaning a small road, is a rural lane, often walled with stone, usually unpaved, often older than anything that uses it. The one outside Doolin has been used by a postman every weekday morning since 1922, when the newly founded state took over the service from the British Post Office. In the kitchen of the house, the letter is for. A woman the family calls Auntie Peg has not yet come in from the yard. The kettle has been on the range for 15 minutes. The cat is asleep against the fender. In this part of County Clare, the annual rainfall at the nearest weather station, Valentia Island, southwest in County Kerry, averages 1,398 millimetres. It has rained for part of more than 200 days a year, every year, for as long as records have been kept. The slate on the roof breathes. By the time the postman has turned back onto the main road, a second morning is beginning, 300 kilometres to the southeast. At a quay in Kinsale, on the south coast of County Cork, the harbour has been working since the 12th century. The fisherman, coiling rope on the deck of the Margaret Ann, is the third in his family to stand where he is standing. The boat is a half-decker, a traditional Irish hull design, open at the stern with a small wheelhouse forward, and she fishes mackerel and pollock from April to October. Within 6 nautical miles of the harbour mouth. The Bandon River enters the Atlantic here, and the tide decides the morning. Low water is at 6:48. The lights on the town side of the harbour will stay on until 7:15. The gulls are already up. The fisherman does not speak. The rope goes into the locker. The engine starts. The boat leaves the quay in a wake of diesel smoke and gull calls, and the harbour light on the east pier is still on when she rounds the headland. And where the water ends, the kettle begins. In a farmhouse kitchen in Adair in County Limerick, a kettle comes off a range that has not been coaled since 1987. The kitchen is in one of the 19 thatched cottages that still line Main Street, the largest concentration of thatched houses in any Irish village. The tea is made. The woman, whose hands are doing this, does not turn from the stove. A radio on the dresser is playing the morning weather forecast from RTE Radio na Gaeltachta, the state Irish language radio station, broadcasting from Castler in Connemara since 1972. The presenter is speaking in Irish. The kitchen is listening in Irish and English at once, the way half the country does without thinking about it. The tea is poured. The cat is fed. The door is still closed. By the time the second kettle is on in Adair, the rest of the West is already at work. "300 kilometers north of Kinsale, on the largest island off the Irish coast, the rain has stopped. Achill Island sits off the west coast of County Mayo, connected to the mainland by a bridge at Achill Sound since 1949. The island is 148 square kilometers of bog, cliff and heather. And its current population is roughly 2,700, about a third of what it was in the census of 1841. On the south slope of Slieve Moor, the mountain that gives the deserted village its name, roughly 100 stone houses stand without roofs. The walls are intact. The lintels above the doors are intact. The gable ends are square. The thatch and the roof timbers and the people have been gone for the better part of 2 centuries. The village was last permanently inhabited in the decade after 1845. The stones are still set the way they were set. There is simply no one living in them. "200 kilometers northeast, where the bog gives way to heather and the heather to the Atlantic, the first bell of the primary school in Gay Dor is ringing. Gay Dor, Guidor in English, is a parish in northwest County Donegal and one of the largest Irish-speaking regions in the country. The parish has roughly 4,000 residents. About 2,500 of them speak Irish every day. A Gaeltacht is an officially designated Irish-speaking region. A small corner of the country where the language the state tried and failed to remove, and then tried and is still failing to revive, is the language of the kitchen table rather than of the classroom. There are 7 Gaeltacht regions in total. Daily Irish speakers across the whole country in the 2022 census numbered 73,000, about 1.5% of the population. In a single teacher classroom in Gaydor, a child of about 8 stands up from a small wooden desk and begins to recite a verse. The verse is in Irish. The teacher does not correct the pronunciation. The words were written in the 17th century. The child does not know this. The child knows the verse. On the wall behind the teacher, a hand-drawn map of Ireland has the 7 Gaeltacht regions shaded in green. The shaded areas altogether cover roughly 6% of the island. 150 years ago, they covered more than half of it. 200 kilometers south, where the bog meets the Atlantic in a different country entirely, the land tells a different half of the same story. Connemara, in western County Galway, is one of the densest dry stone wall landscapes on Earth. The Heritage Council estimates roughly 250,000 kilometers of stone walls across the region. They divide the bog into a broken net of small fields, most of which enclose nothing that any farmer would graze. A great many of them were built under the famine relief programs of the late 1840s. When the state paid a starving workforce a ration of Indian meal for work that would have been unnecessary in any other decade. Roads dug to nowhere, and walls raised around fields that would never be plowed. The administrators of the relief programs used a phrase for these walls in their own correspondence. They called them walls that enclosed nothing. The walls are still there. The bog under them has not moved. In a cottage near Letterfrack, roof gone, the gable still standing, a bougainvillea that was planted by whoever last lived there is still in flower. There is no one to cut it back. It will outlive the walls, because the walls will not be knocked down. Nothing in Connemara is knocked down. The country has been careful for 170 years to let its empty buildings stand. The child in Gweedore finishes the verse. 400 kilometers away, in a Dublin pub at 2 in the afternoon, the first line of a different verse is about to start.
The Brazen Head on Bridge Street in Dublin has been trading since 1198. The building has been rebuilt twice, once in the 17th century and once in the late 19th, but the license on the wall above the bar has not lapsed. It claims to be the oldest pub in Ireland, and depending on which adjudication a visitor trusts, it either is or is in a tie with one other. The low stone archway at the side entrance opens onto a courtyard. There are 4 rooms downstairs and 3 upstairs. The ceiling is old enough that most men have to duck. A sesiún, a session, is a group of traditional musicians playing together in a pub without amplification, without a stage, without a ticket, open to any player who knows the tunes. At 2 in the afternoon in the Brazen Head, the sesiún starts when the 3rd musician sits down at the corner table. A fiddle, a guitar, and a bowran. There are 6 people in the room. A tourist from Japan is the only one with a phone out. The tune is a jig in D. The other regulars in the pub do not look up. Dublin, the capital, has a population of about 590,000 within Dublin city proper. About 1.5 million across the Dublin region taken as a whole, and roughly 2.1 million across the wider Greater Dublin area. It is the only Irish city that has grown continuously for 200 years. 220 kilometers west, the sea makes a different city. Galway, on the Atlantic coast, is the 4th largest city in the Republic. Its population within the municipal boundary is about 85,000. Shop Street, the pedestrian main street, carries the traffic of a city whose students and tourists arrive in the same October. A busker with a fiddle plays outside Tí Nachten. A pub that has been on the corner of Cross Street since 1894, and the 3 women passing slow their walk for a moment, but do not stop. The Cladda, the old fishing village outside the city's medieval walls, gave its name to the Cladda ring, the circle of hands around a crowned heart. The ring has been worn in Ireland for more than 400 years. The motto behind it is simple: let love and friendship reign. The Galway International Arts Festival, held every July since 1978, draws more than 250,000 attendees in a single fortnight. It is the largest multidisciplinary arts festival in the country. 110 kilometers east, where the Shannon is at its widest, a different counter is being wiped at 10 in the morning. Sean's Bar, on Main Street in Athlone in County Westmeath, has been pouring drinks continuously since around the year 900. It is recognized by Guinness World Records as the oldest pub in Ireland, and by most adjudications as the oldest in Europe. The town of Athlone, Athlone in Irish, is named after a man who kept a hostel at the ford where the River Shannon was narrow enough to walk. At 10:25 in the morning, a man in his 60s settles onto a stool at the end of the counter. The bartender does not ask him what he wants. A pint of Guinness goes on the tap. The first pint of the day is always given the full pour. The door of Sean's bar has iron hinges that are older than anyone who has ever walked through them. 230 kilometers southwest, where the mouth of Cork Harbour opens to the Atlantic, the last ferry of the afternoon is coming in. Cove, pronounced Cove, sits on the south side of Cork Harbour, with a population of just under 13,000. The pastel-coloured terraced houses climb the hillside above the quay. The town was called Queenstown from 1849 until 1920. Renamed after Queen Victoria's only visit to Ireland. The last ferry of the afternoon ties up at the jetty. The cathedral bell strikes 4. This harbour was once called Queenstown. Most of the people who are missing from Ireland left through it. The road climbs along the east shore of Dhu La. The lake is long and narrow, glacial, 2.5 kilometers from south to north, held between the bare slopes of Muil Ray on the west side. At 814 meters, the highest mountain in Connaught, and the Sheafree Hills on the east. The road is single lane. A single stone cross stands on the eastern side of the pass, plain, unworked. It was put there in 1988 by the people of Louisburg, 12 miles to the northwest. It was unveiled formally in 1994 by Mary Robinson. The 7th President of Ireland and the first woman to hold the office. The inscription is short. It names the day the walk was taken. On the 30th of March, 1849, several hundred people from the district of Louisburg, already starving in the 4th year of the Blight, were ordered to walk 12 miles through this pass to Delphi Lodge, the summer hunting retreat of the Marquis of Sligo, to be inspected by 2 officials of the Poor Law Union. The inspection was required before they could be declared eligible for relief. They walked through the night into Atlantic wind off the mountain. The precise number who died on the walk is disputed. Contemporary famine relief records state that at least 7 bodies were found on the road. Local history, carried by the mouths of those who outlived the walk, places the number in the hundreds. When the walkers arrived at Delphi the following morning, the 2 officials were at breakfast and would not be disturbed. The walkers were told to come back. The wind at the pass, even on a mild afternoon, does not let the stone of the cross weather slowly. In a field above the road to Letterfrack, roughly 70 kilometers south along the same Connaught coast, a cottage stands with its roof gone. The walls are intact. A bougainvillea, planted by whoever last lived there, still blooms against the low wall of the yard. The number of permanently uninhabited houses counted in the Irish census of 1851 was roughly 145,000. Most of them were in the west. Many of the walls that surround them and the dry stone walls that divide Connemara into its broken net pattern of small fields were built under the famine relief programs of the late 1840s. As a way to pay a ration of Indian meal to workers whose fields had no potatoes left in them.
the walls are still there. Michael Davitt was born on the 25th of March 1846 in Strade, County Mayo, during the second summer of the Blight. His family was evicted from their holding in 1852. They went to Lancashire. He lost his right arm in a cotton mill accident at the age of 11. He came back to Ireland in his 20s, and on the 21st of October, 1879, in a hotel in Castlebar, a few miles from the house his family was put out of, he founded the Irish National Land League. The hunger did not end in 1849. Cormac O'Grada, Professor Emeritus of Economics at University College Dublin and the author of Black 47 and Beyond, published by Princeton University Press in 1999, has argued that the mortality was shaped not only by blight, but by policy, specifically by the 1847 decision to close the public soup kitchens and force relief back into the workhouse system. His count of the dead across the 7 years of the Blight is roughly 1 million. The harbour at Cove has been waiting through all of this. The same quay the viewer saw yesterday afternoon at 3 o'clock, with the cathedral bell striking 4, the same pastel-coloured terraces climbing above it. Between the opening of emigrant shipping records in the 1840s and the last liner that called here in 1970, roughly 6 million people emigrated from Ireland. Approximately 2.5 million of them left through this harbour. In the single year of 1847, the Queenstown port records list more than 140,000 passengers departing for North America, a town of about 7,000 people at the time, processing more than 20 times its own population out through one quay in 1 year. The mortality on some of the emigrant crossings that winter was above 20%. The ships were called coffin ships. Skibbereen in West Cork became the town whose name, in that same year, turned into shorthand for starvation. Roughly 1 in 3 people in the parish died of hunger or fever between the autumn of 1846 and the spring of 1847. The cathedral bell at Cove strikes 6. The sound carries over the water. 200 kilometers west, a fiddle bow is meeting a string.
The first note is a D. It is played on a concert pitch fiddle at 9:15 in the evening in a corner of Gus O'Connor's pub in Doolin in County Clare. There is no microphone. There are 3 musicians, a fiddle, a flute, and a bodhrán. And there are 4 pints on the table in front of them, settling slowly, in the way a properly poured Guinness settles over its traditional 119.5 seconds. The first tune is a reel in D major. The flute picks up the A part without being told. The bodhrán comes in on the B part. The fiddler does not look up. A session is a session. A group of traditional musicians playing together in a pub. No amplification, no stage, no ticket. Open to any player who knows the tunes. The tradition was revived from near extinction in the 1950s.
partly through the founding of Cultus Cultúrae Éireann, the national body for Irish traditional music, in Dublin in 1951. Most of the tunes played in Doolin tonight were first collected in the 1890s. Written down in tune books that went out of print in the 1900s, carried to Boston and New York in the steerage of emigrant ships, and returned to Ireland on cassette tape from the Irish-American diaspora in the 1970s. The tune is called The Musical Priest. It was first written down in 1881. Willie Clancy was an uilleann piper from Milltown Malbay in County Clare, 45 kilometers south along the coast. He was born on the 24th of December 1918 and died on the 24th of January 1973. The summer school founded in his memory held every July in Milltown Malbay since 1973, draws more than 1,500 students to the town for 9 days of intensive tuition in fiddle, flute, uilleann pipes, concertina, sean nós singing, and set dancing. It is the largest traditional music school in Ireland. Sean nós, old-style, unaccompanied Irish singing, is taught there too. The voice does the work a band would do. 65 kilometers west of Doolin, on the largest of the 3 Aran Islands, a woman finishes the last row of a sweater she has been knitting for 11 days. Inishmore is the largest of the Aran Islands. The 3 islands together have a combined population of roughly 1,200. The sweater is made from undyed wool from the native Irish sheep. Each of the recurring stitches has a name. The cable represents the fisherman's rope. The honeycomb represents the work of bees. The Trinity represents the 3 hands that once held the loom: the mothers, the daughters, and the daughters' daughters. The women who do the knitting now. The Aran knitters of Inishmore are not named in any book published outside the island. Their pattern books are kept in biscuit tins in their own kitchens. 220 kilometers east of the island, the Tech Tower lights are coming on above the Grand Canal dock in Dublin. The Samuel Beckett Bridge crosses the River Liffey in a single arc shaped like a harp on its side. Behind the bridge, the European headquarters of Google, Meta, LinkedIn, Airbnb, Stripe, and TikTok all sit within a 2-kilometer radius. The Republic of Ireland's population at the 2022 census was 5,149,139. It was the first official count above 5 million since 1851. Roughly 1 in 4 residents were born outside the country. In 2022, approximately 30,000 Irish-born people returned from abroad to live in Ireland again. Michael D. Higgins, the 9th President of Ireland, a poet, reads from the examination hall at Trinity College, Dublin, where the Book of Kells is held in the old library.
The fiddle in Doolin finishes the reel. The flute takes the lead of the next tune without a word. The door of Gus O'Connor's is still open to the boreen. The boreen outside Doolin is still there. The postman has finished his round. The milk churn is empty. On the same island in Dublin, the Samuel Beckett Bridge is lit. And the lights in the Grand Canal dock towers do not go off until after midnight. Ireland's population in 1841 was 8.5 million. In 1911, it was 4.5. In 2022, it passed 5 million for the first time in 171 years. The tunes are older than the count. In a pub in Doolin, the fiddler starts another set. The door is still open.